am Solomon Sloan, and with me is my grandpa, Grandpa Warren Powell.
Yes. Glad to be here. Always enjoying it.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions about your life and what your job was and how you feel about this pandemic.
Okay.
Are you ready to start?
Yes, I am.
All right, so the first question is, when and where were you born?
Well, I was born in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. And the hospital, that sort of slips my mind, what hospital I was actually born in. I was thinking about that, and it comes to mind, D.C. General. Well, my mind does work sometimes. D.C. General, and that's no longer called D.C. General. Now, if you're asking me what it's called now, I am a little, lost in that aspect. But I was born in D.C. General Hospital in Washington, D.C., to answer your question.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what was it like growing up, and what advice would you give to a teenager currently still in school?
I can make this long, or you want the short version?
Either.
Okay. Well, when I was growing up, we had it pretty hard. My mom and my sibling, my brothers and sisters. And we had some hard times, but she was fantastic. My mom's a nurse, and she worked midnight shifts, came in and actually went to sleep. Just told us to fix a meal and do the best we can. Of course, I was the oldest. Did I cook? No, I did not cook. My sister, who's the next oldest, she was that was her job. But it was, to answer your question and make it a little shorter, is that it was pretty rough, and we were in an area, I don't know if you're aware of when I say projects, what projects are. Projects are for the poor individuals who don't actually have a lot, and we were living in a limited home with just enough room for us, and the area was, just to shorten it out, it was for the poor people who just didn't have enough. But we didn't have enough in the area, but we had enough to survive. And so it was good, though. So if you ever think about when families come together and we all lived in the same area, and being in the projects, the mothers, and it was mostly mothers, and that's kind of tough. It was mostly mothers raising kids, and it was pretty tough. But the area was like a family. They looked after each other. So we couldn't do any wrong without them letting my mom know that I had my eye on them. They can't do no wrong. So we were just like a family taking care of families. So it was good. It was good. When we had little cookouts and things of that nature, we did it all together. Even though we were poor, we didn't know we were poor. Let me put it like that. I didn't know until we got older. We were told, oh, you lived in the project. Oh, okay. It was fun. We had big yards, where all the projects were located in one area, and it was great. We made it fun, and we made it work. So, being the oldest, again, I wasn't even aware I was poor back then. My mom was super mom, and she did great. So, along with the education and things of that nature there, Solomon, it just depends on where you're growing up at, who you're growing around, who you grow with that makes a difference. And we lived in a great area, and the resources weren't that much, but it was enough for us. So my mom did great. As a matter of fact, she was loved so much. She was so much that she always was looking for something better in her eyesight. She didn't know that we were good, but she had a gentleman who owned a lot of homes, and she was trying to move us from the projects, and which she did. She did, but I wasn't there when she moved. I was much older then, and I was in the military. And she used to call me, and she said, I just need this much money or that money, and she wanted to do this to get this home, and she ended up doing that. And she ended up moving to Northeast Washington, D.C. from the projects. Big, beautiful home. And I couldn't believe it. But I was in the military, and I was everywhere. I was everywhere. But I know we'll talk about it. See, I would just keep talking. You have to let your grandpa, because you're taking me back in all my memories. And it was fantastic. It was fantastic back then, because siblings and all of us together growing up, we didn't know about poor, but my mom did. She did. She really did. Because back in, I know you don't even know, it's a place called Ivory City. All the folks from the southern part of like down the south, that's one of their first stops that they came to, Ivory City. And the projects was superb compared to where they came from and where they ended up at. See, it was really something. But I'll go on, and we may touch base with that again. So you can ask me another question, because I think I'll be back to another, because I'll keep talking. Your grandpa is just the memories, and you had me thinking about your grandma and all the things that she did and how good she was, and how strong she was. As a matter of fact, that was when I met your grandma, your grandma reminded me of my mom. That's one of the things that attracted me to her, because your grandma was so strong, and it was just, I said to myself, wow. And even my mom said, she knew when she met your grandma, and she shook her head and said, and now you made a good choice, because I know when I got married, simply because I had a child, and I wasn't going to be like my father. And when the young lady that my first marriage, when I had a child by her, I said, no, I'm going to make sure I raise my family. I'm going to make sure I raise them. And that's what I did. But my mom always told me, simply because you had a baby doesn't mean you have to get married. She was just letting me know I wasn't making the right choice, but she understood what I was doing. She knew that I didn't want to be like my father. Being the eldest of the family, Solomon, is a lot of responsibility. You take on that title, and you want to do the right things with whatever you go out and do in life. And that's where I approached it. Didn't work out, but in that aspect, my first. And of course, I still did what I had to do with my child. And we ended up in a divorce. And But it was okay because she didn't want to be married anyway. She didn't want to be married, and I did not either, not to her. But that made me come to a conclusion even back then, Solomon. I did a lot of I always did a lot of praying because that's what my mom. She was a praying woman, and things were so rough. I just prayed that to my Lord and Savior, and I said, if you could just send me a strong woman in my life, that's it. I'll be okay. And to jump on over a little bit, that's when I met your grandma, of all the places, because I used to bowl a lot. I used to love bowling at the bowling alley. Didn't really meet her, but I heard her. I heard her voice. I looked, one of my good friends said, I see you over there looking at that young lady. I said, yeah. But, you know, he said that, oh yeah, she's available. I wasn't even asking you, was she available? I was just listening to her. She was up here trying to correct somebody in there that she was bowling with, saying that you don't talk to some people like this. She was up there correcting them. I looked over there, I said, whoa. She was correcting them. She was trying to get it in. No, you don't do that here. And I looked over there and I said, and they listened. Whoever I can't remember who it was, but they were listening. And I said, I like that. I like the way she approached it. That was when I was attracted to her. I was attracted to your grandma at the bowling alley. And we sort of not really got together as time went on. And it was really kind of, you know. And one of her girlfriends said, "Do you see WP? That's what everybody called me in the bowling alley. He's looking at you." She said, "Hey, looking at that, you know, that young fella there." Like evidently she said, but as time went on, she became attracted to me, and I attracted to her, and we sort of came together that way, and it was in the bowling. It was in the bowling environment that we actually came together. We, went different places together, and when she really, it didn't really get strong until she met my mom. When she met my mom, that's when it got strong, because she loved my mom, not just my mom's mom. She met her, and my mom's mom said, "Oh, look at that pretty girl." She just looks so nice, and she attracted everybody that I introduced your grandma to. They were attracted to her. As a matter of fact, my previous girlfriend, because when I was in the military, that's another thing. When I was in the military, I actually was engaged to another young lady. I was engaged to another young lady, and what had happened, I got a did. If you don't know what a did John card is, in other words, she wrote me a did John card saying that she had found another young man, and she just wasn't interested in me in that aspect anymore. So that was a little bit hurting right there. And so when I came back, she gave me my ring. And this is even before your grandma, but it was like pretty much, I can't even remember how that separated, but that was something though. She was a good girl. She was a good woman, let me put it that way. I knew her family, we were all tight, but I was okay, I I was okay after that. And when she found out that I was no longer associated, then that's when I had my child, and I thought, and then, because she knew about it, and I think that had a little bit, do something with it, but that really didn't bother to a great degree. But it probably did when somebody said it doesn't have something to do with it, but it does. It really does. But she got to meet the mother of my child, and she told me she's not good. She said she's not good. She's not good for you. You shouldn't even think about marrying her. So I thought she was just getting a little jealous or something like that. But she spoke her mind. She was a pretty strong little young lady too. But it was. I went through so much back in my young days, from the military, being drafted, solid. And my life was really, really, from the draft back to Vietnam War, from back at that time, because I even remember back at that time that my mom knew I had got my draft notice, and she said, "I don't want you to go in the Army." She said, "I talked to some people, and they were saying, if you don't have to wait, because when their draft notice comes, when they call you, you got to go. You have an option. You can go into the Air Force or the Navy, whatever your choice is." And she said, "You always said you wanted to fly." And I did. I had that thing. I just wanted to fly a plane. Never got that chance, but I did want to fly. That was something. I wanted to fly. Mom said, "Just go in there, and you don't know what would happen. Just go ahead and, sign up and see what happens." But it was a little more difficult for back in that time for African Americans. It's a little bit more difficult. But also, even back then, she said, "Just go ahead, and you got other loves to do." She said she always wanted to the computers and information knowledge in that aspect. And so I did that. I went in with the Air Force. That's how I got into the Air Force, because she actually, from other people speaking to them, said this is how you avoid the draft, because they will, when your notice come up, you got to go. I had got my notice, but they hadn't called me yet. So I ended up joining the Air Force, taking the exams, and they said, "Yeah, we can use you." And so that's how I ended up in the Air Force. Pretty much I ended up in the Air Force that way. And it was okay. The training was rough. The training was rough, because I wasn't used to no one coming up to me demanding certain things of me when I'm doing my best, and actually being more controlling. And because I was pretty much, when being the eldest, I was pretty much that type of a person back then, saying, "I'm gonna give you my best, just respect me as I respect you." But I trained in RTIs. I trained in instructors. They were something back then. But training instructors were that way no matter in the armed forces anyway. But it was great. After I learned, because when they found out, see, Washington, solid back in our time, Washington D.C., where they said the poor areas were, and when you go in that area, when you're in that poor area, you become strong to a great extent to protect your area. And that's what that was all about. And for some reason, a lot of people from different areas, like New York, another tough area, the Bronx, Philadelphia, another tough area, where they don't even have to be African Americans, but when they grow up in poorer areas, in these areas here, and it becomes a little tough. And so that's why I met a lot of, let's just say, not just blacks, interracial individuals, and from Philly and from New York, and oh boy. Actually, I didn't even know about the South to a great extent when my mom grew up. I didn't even know about that. That in those some of those areas that, you know, that I wasn't allowed. I was not allowed to come there. You just don't go. So, but when we were doing our training, this was one. I can give you this one, then we'll move on into whatever else you might have to say. But young white guy, him and I was buddies, real close. He definitely had no knowledge of the South, and he had none whatsoever. And he was from Philly. And he hung with. He didn't even hang with. He didn't hang with whites at all. He hung with African Americans. He enjoyed that. He said, I like the way he, because that's what we do in Philly. We take care of each other. We look after each other. He liked that. And he liked that. You know, he really loved it. And I remember when we went to a place to eat, supposedly, and drink. But when we came in the front door, the people who owned it said, you black, you can't come through no front door. He looked and listened. He said, what? He went totally, oh. I said, hey, come on. I said, man, chill. He said, you better watch yourself. And he called him a name. Well, he called him some type of redneck. I forget it was said, redneck, something. And he said, I'll be, it got real tough until we pretty much, see, we had become accustomed to doing that, but he hadn't. He said, how y'all take it? How do you take it? I said, this is what we've been accustomed to hearing and seeing and knowing. I said, oh man. He said, I just can't do this. I can't do this. But knew him. We stayed close for quite a while, till he had to go in one direction, and I had to go in another one in the training. But be surprised with people. It's just not. That's when it's not. I learned back then. It's not about color. It's about the individual. It's the person. And from that particular point, you know, that became sort of like a training walk for me like that. I said, okay, everybody's not the same. You know, everybody is not the same. It's in what's in your heart. It's what's in your heart. And it's all about, that's when what Mom taught me really came back and hit me. And it's about God, because He's always there. And that's just who I became after that, you know, pretty much. And I think that your grandma and I, that became an attracting point there too, because she was so strong and I was to a point, but I was more strong, and at the same time, I guess you could say that your grandpa basically not only being strong, I was more so in the listening aspect. You know, I could really communicate and listen. You know, so we became that working part right there. And it's a working part that your grandpa just holds on to, you know, holds on to. It's just who she was and who I were. And God brought us both together. And He said, It's not always what you want, it's but what you need. And he knows. He knows. And so I'm in another set now. I know he has something planned for me. And I just don't know how and what he wants me to do. But I hold on to that special anomaly. Patience. 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 So everything I'm gonna do, everybody's not gonna like, but doesn't that sound like somebody? Sounds like Jesus to me. Everything he does, everybody ain't gonna like it, but it's what's good. And you got something else for me? I might have. I know I probably addressed a lot of things.
Yeah, you've addressed a lot. The only question that you really haven't addressed was if your if the school you went to was either segregated or integrated.
Okay. And you're talking about high school, elementary,
Just any school.
any school? Okay. It was not greatly integrated, but it was integrated. It was integrated. Again, depends on what area that you grew up. And I grew up when my mom had, where we actually grew up in, that area was not integrated. It was primarily African American. That's the school itself and all of that was not integrated because it was pretty much areas with black only and African American. But I can't think of now. College was different. That's different. I attended Howard University in the beginning. I attended Howard. Yeah, that was not integrated. That was African American, HBU, and so I couldn't afford Howard after I got out of the military. Now the military did me well. Don't get me wrong, they did me well, but it just wasn't enough money. I was raising my children, and between trying to raise them and have the monetary aspect of having enough money to attend Howard, I couldn't do it. So I had to leave Howard University, and I had to go to okay, you're gonna forget your university where you got your degrees at.
UDC.
Huh? UDC. UDC. University of District of Columbia. They called it something else a little later though. It wasn't UDC. They changed it. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what they changed it from. But I got most of my degrees from UDC. My bachelor's, and I got my associate degree from there. So, but you know, UDC was integrated. That's what it had nothing to do about, you know, color or anything like that. This was all about money. UDC was all about money. But I achieved, did what I had to do, moved on. And actually, that's when your grandma came in too. When she found out that due to the fact I was working so hard and I couldn't finish up my bachelor's. I did finish my associate, but I couldn't finish up my bachelor's because I was just working hard trying to do some things, not just for myself, but for her and for us, put it that way. And when she had started doing some things, she went back to school to get her associate in accounting. Yeah, but she hadn't completed it. She didn't complete it until later. She didn't complete that until later. But and that she didn't complete it until I got my bachelor's. Let's put it that way. She went back to get her associate. That's when she completed hers. But that's just the both of us working together. She said, no, you're going to get your bachelor's. You're going to get your bachelor's degree. That's what you was working hard for. You go ahead and got your, I said, I had my associate. I had it in computer science technology. That's what I got my associate degree in. And then my bachelor's, I got it in computer science information systems. Computer science information systems. But all of that was good. All of that was good. But integration and the college aspect, integration is just something. It wasn't even about, anything else. We don't even think about integration in the college aspect. Even in Howard, we didn't really think. That was your choice. If you chose, no matter what color you were, if you chose you wanted to go to Howard University, you went to Howard University. You got to be strong to do it. You go there and say, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to do. And if you, the HBUs, if you sort of like familiarize yourself with some of the places there and some of the, things that goes on, you'll find that it's not about color when you go there, it's what you chose. It's about what you choose. This is where you want to be. It's all about you, whatever you want to do in life. So as I got older, when I was young, it was all about people chose to have us in these. It's not what we chose. Because of our color, they put us in specific schools. Integration, and things of that nature. This wasn't our choice. It wasn't our choice. History will show you that. This is what they chose. And then these are the arguments. And when some of the things were chosen for us, they didn't even really want us to be there. It wasn't always about us choosing, this is where I want to go. This is where the society, if you want to call it, this is where they want us to be. As time changed, history changed, you see a lot of good things grew up from that aspect. And when people fought for, let's say, this is what, especially our parents, this is what I want, where I want my child to understand. It ain't about the color. It's about who you are and what you want. You had some strong people out there who fought for that. And that's why us as a country are where we are right now in history. And history is what dictates to get us where we are. And that's from churches, even from churches. A lot of folks didn't even want us to obtain an education back in the day. What you learning to read for? You don't need to read. And I said, God is good. And he's pretty much letting them know I'm in control of him. And this is why everything is the way it is. The way it is. We can go on, and even in reference to Biden, and look at our vice president. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? I wish my mom was here to see some of the things that have occurred. Not just my mom, some of the other people who grew up and they, and knew what it used to be, and now they can see what it is. It's just so great. Anything else?
I think you've pretty much covered everything.
And I'm so proud of all of you, because of mom and dad, the way you're growing up and your knowledge. I look forward to seeing where it takes you and what you decide to do in life. It's just not you. We got some strong individuals in our family, They are leading, they're going, and they're becoming leaders in their heart. should do.
Thanks, Grandpa.
And he's doing it well.
Alright, so I think that pretty much wraps everything up. So thank you for your time, Grandpa.
I enjoyed every moment of it.
It was a pretty interesting story.
Your grandpa can go on and on and on.